Welcome to the Phenomenal Teacher Show. Our guest today is Dr. Jill Wener, and she is the co-founder of the Transformed Mastery Retreat. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'd like to start off by asking you, who was your favorite teacher growing up and what made them special to you?
Ooh, my favorite teacher. Interestingly, I had a dream, I think last night, about Mrs. Roth, my third grade teacher, who I love so much, and she taught us this 50 Nifty United States song that I just taught to my boyfriend's kids, I guess several months ago. And in my dream, I was like, Mrs. Roth, I taught the song. I remember it. I taught it to them. So I loved her. My fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Sims, was tough on me, but I needed it. And she broke my habit of speaking out without raising my hand. And so I love her for that too, but she was not as warm and fuzzy.
Yeah. I love hearing stories about your memories from third and fourth grade and how that was so many years ago, but they still had a positive impact.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So, Dr. Wener, how did you come across, doing your retreats and being interested in, meditation and EFT tapping? Tell us your journey.
Sure. You can call me Jill, by the way. So I practiced hospital medicine. So as a hospitalist, internal medicine for 10 years in Chicago. I got really burnt out, as I'm sure a lot of teachers can relate to. Burnout is for any caring profession, and actually some that aren't even caring professions, but particularly teachers can relate. I got really burnt out in 2011 and was a mess. I mean, I was crying every day. One little thing would go wrong, and I would before my day was over, before I had finished all my charting, I would get up and just leave my office and do the rest of my work from home because I had no reserves. I had no ability to adapt to what life was throwing at me. And so around that time, and I was never anyone that was spiritual or I was always very skeptical, very type A, very anxious, very high achieving, and never thought I'd become a meditator. But I met someone who told me they meditated twice a day, and I was rock bottom enough that I was very interested. And I said, tell me all about this. And he said, my teacher's coming to speak in 2 days. It was in Chicago at the time. So I went to go hear his teacher speak. He's talking about this concept called adaptation energy, which is like your bank account of patience, and explaining to me about stress, the way stress affects our body and mind in a way that I didn't even understand it as a doctor. It was a way but it made me feel like he saw inside my soul, and understood exactly why I was always on this precipice of losing it. And so I signed up for his course. It was quite expensive, but the most life-changing thing I've ever done. And very easily within the course is taught 4 days in a row, very easily was meditating self-sufficiently. It felt good. I was having actual experiences while I was meditating. I was able to fit it into my day. And I knew that I never wanted to go back to who I was before that. So that's the very quick version. But I loved it so much, I eventually decided to become a teacher in that tradition and never actually thought I would leave my medical career because it made my burnout better. And I was quite productive and happy at my job. But just got this sense that there's something out there that's more for me, that my medical career was great until leading me up to something else. So I did my teacher training in India for 3 months in early 2016. And then decided not to go back to my medical job. There's a few other life things that happened in between there. Decided not to go back to medicine and to teach meditation full time. So that's the meditation part of it. The tapping part of it. So tapping is called the emotional freedom technique. And that is something that I first learned about at a medical conference for women where I was teaching my meditation course. And a psychiatrist from the VA Medical Center was talking about how she uses tapping to help her PTSD vet patients. So I thought it sounded interesting. And then I actually met a woman in Atlanta where I'm based who told me, who's a tapping practitioner. And I had been going through some rough stuff in my own life. And I did one session with her and I felt like myself for the first time in months. So I signed up for a package with her and I've been working with her ever since then. And then eventually she trained me to become a practitioner. And it has worked really, really well with my meditation. They complement each other really well. Tapping is more like a spot cleaning, and meditation is more of a global overall stress reduction. Shifts a lot in your body, shifts a lot in your perspective, but the type I teach isn't as effective for, I'm feeling really stressed out about the fact that my, ex-husband is coming over to pick the kids up right now. That's really good for tapping. The meditation is going to be more globally preventing that massive panic and stress.
So let's talk a little bit about the way that you meditate, which is quite different than mindfulness. Can you explain a little bit the difference?
Yeah, absolutely. So the technique that I teach it's from the tradition called Vedic meditation. I call it conscious health meditation. It's also very similar to transcendental meditation. And what happens in mindfulness, what I teach, as you said, is very different from mindfulness. So mindfulness, you're focusing your attention intentionally, you're cultivating attention and awareness on something specific, your breath, a mantra, feelings in your body, your thoughts, anything at all. Guided visualizations are a form of mindfulness because you're putting your attention on something. The mind is going to wander. And the idea is don't be mad at your mind for wandering, but really, really let's try to bring it back to what you're supposed to be focusing on. Mindfulness is extremely beneficial. Lots of really great benefits from it, but it can feel really hard for people because they feel like they're fighting against their mind all the time. And it's a very exclusive practice, meaning you're supposed to be focusing on this one thing. What I teach is more of an inclusive practice, meaning that we're very happy for our minds to wander. We're not just accepting of it, but that actually means we're doing it right. We sit comfortably with our back supported. We don't sit with our legs crossed and our back straight and our hands doing a specific position, because the idea is we are trying to change the way our body is operating from the stress mode, which is the sympathetic nervous system, into the rest and digest and relax mode, which is the parasympathetic nervous system. And if I'm sitting up like this and my back is hurting me and I'm fighting against the way my brain naturally has thoughts and I'm uncomfortable and my knees hurt, I'm not going to be able to get to that relaxation mode. And so when you practice the type of meditation that I teach, you actually get to a state that's 2 to 5 times more restful than sleep. And that's easy to do, and everybody does it. Once you get the instruction, it's very easy to get there. So the idea is get your mind and body into that restful state so that you can start to repair yourself and change the way naturally that you react to the world. So it works nicely with mindfulness. It's just a lot easier, a lot more effortless, and people aren't working hard to do that meditation practice, because a lot of people come in to meet me and are like, I know I'm supposed to meditate, but it's so hard and I feel like an idiot and I'm banging my head against the wall because I feel like I'm the only one who can't do it. And then they give up because they think, oh, I'm not good enough to meditate, or everyone says my brain is too busy or too active to meditate. And that's exactly how everyone feels. So people are always very surprised and relieved to know that they actually can meditate.
So Jill, I would love for us to maybe go through a brief meditation that they could do in between classes. Let's say that they have 40-minute blocks and they have, different students coming in and out. I'd love for us to maybe do a very quick, brief meditation process where they could do it right in their seat or wherever they are in a staff room before a meeting. That would be fantastic.
That's awesome. Yeah. So the type that I teach, the conscious health meditation, I can't do it. It's practiced 20 minutes twice a day, and it's more of a preventative practice. So you do it twice a day. I teach you how to fit it into your day. It's not done for that, oh, I'm feeling stressed, oh, I have a second. So I can't guide that because you need instruction, several different steps of instruction on how to do it. But there are lots of other really great tricks that you can do that are more based in mindfulness that I'm happy to go through with you right now, that people who do practice what I have taught them also love to do these. So the first one is called the box breath. If you think about a square, you want to breathe in. You can do it anywhere from 2 to 4 seconds per side of the box. But the idea is equal amounts, breathing in, holding, breathing out, and holding. And what that does is it stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system. That's the same thing. That's the rest relaxation mode of the body. And it can also just take you out of whatever mental process you were obsessing over or reacting to, and just really getting you focusing on your breathing. So we can do that now, and you can really do it for a minute in between classes, or a couple minutes. It's very easy and quick to do. So we can do a 3-second one. So anyone who's listening, and you can do this with me, we're going to breathe in. Now hold at the top of your inhale. Now exhale. And now hold at the bottom of your inhale. Now inhale. Hold at the top of the inhale. Exhale. And hold at the bottom of the exhale. So it's very, very steady. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. 2 seconds each side, 3 seconds each side, or 4 seconds each side. Sometimes 4 seconds makes my heart start to pound a little bit if I'm holding in my breath, or if I'm holding at the exhale, and you don't want to get to that point. So if you start to feel like you're suffocating or drowning, then cut back to 3 seconds. So that's one really great thing. And another thing you can do is just tune into your senses. So 5 senses. What are you tasting, smelling, seeing, hearing, and feeling in that moment? Check in with that any time of the day. So you can close your eyes and think of the most subtle thing for that sense and the strongest thing. So let's say you just ate like a burrito for lunch. Maybe you're tasting the burrito. That's the strongest thing. But maybe there's also a little bit of, maybe you had a sip of Coke or something like that you're also tasting. Or maybe there's just another bad taste in your mouth that you're tasting. So that's another simple one you can do. And if you'd like, do you want me to guide that now? Or?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So you can close your eyes. And what's good to do is just sit nice and comfortably and pay attention now first to your hearing. So I'll be quiet, but what I want you to do is listen in the background for the quietest thing that you can hear. Now listen for the loudest, most obvious thing that you can hear. Now we'll move to our nose. We're going to move to the sense of smell. So breathe in, and what is the most subtle thing you can smell? And what is the most obvious thing you can smell? And now we'll do taste. We already gave the example of lunch. So what is the most subtle thing you can taste? And the most obvious thing you can taste. The next sense is what you're feeling. So that can be cold air on your skin. It can be your back against the chair, your feet inside your shoes, your waistband on your waist. Anything that you're feeling physically in your body, or if you're feeling an emotion, if you're feeling sad or anxious about something, you can ask yourself, where do I feel that inside my body? It can be maybe a rumbling in your, fluttering in your chest, or a tightness in your stomach, or a tightness in your neck. So what do you feel? What's the most subtle thing you can feel? And what's the strongest thing you can feel? The most obvious. And with vision, you can either do it at the beginning of the exercise with your eyes open and then close your eyes and do the rest. Or like we're doing it now, you can open your eyes, and it's hard to see stuff with your eyes closed. What's the most subtle thing you can see now with your eyes open? And what is the most obvious, bold, bright thing that you can see? And that is a really lovely way also to calm down your nervous system and get yourself in this mode of paying attention to what's going on inside your body and getting you out of whatever thought process is currently hijacking your brain, as it does for all of us.
Yeah, I love that, Jill. It was so simple, yet it really made me become fully present.
Good.
Now, so oftentimes, we're stuck either in the past or in the future, but we're never really in the now moment. So I feel like that was very empowering.
Good, good. I'm glad you liked it. I like when I do mindful activities, exercises, I like to have something for my brain to do while I'm doing them rather than just sitting back and observing, because that's when I feel like it gets a lot more difficult, and people who I'm guiding who don't have experience with mindfulness may feel like they're not getting it right. So it's nice to give the brain something to do during those exercises.
Yes, I definitely agree, because I think that as teachers, we often have like a million things that we need to do. So it's really nice to bring mindfulness in these short little bursts of, the box breathing or being in tune with our five senses. So Jill, let's talk a little bit about EFT, so emotional freedom technique. Mm-hmm. And when you mentioned earlier, when you combine the two, that they work really efficiently. Now, if teachers are not really familiar on tapping, different prime meridians of your face or on your body, why should they be more interested in actually using it in their own lives, or doing some more research, or incorporating it?
Tapping is I think it's so great because it's so versatile. It's so easy to do, and you don't have to be an expert to do it. There's a couple different levels of tapping. There's tapping that will help you with symptom management, that will help you talk yourself down off of an emotional crescendo, a strong emotion in that moment. And then there's a deeper level of tapping where you can get into old traumas, old phobias, PTSD, getting over a divorce or a difficult relationship. Those are going to be something that are a little more deep and generally better working with people one-on-one, but you can work through some pretty intense emotions just on your own if you know the basic recipe for tapping. And you can find a ton of tapping meditations online for free. You can go to Google or YouTube and say tapping for anxiety or tapping for insomnia, and you'll find something. And I can't guarantee the quality of all of them, but there's stuff out there. So that's what's great, is that you can test the waters a little bit without getting too committed emotionally or financially. And it also works for you. You don't have to have a steady practice of it for it to work. With the meditation I teach, it only really works if you do it. But with tapping, it works in each individual moment, and you can not tap for 6 months and tap, and it'll still be just as effective as if you were to tap once or twice a day. Tapping is evidence-based. There's signs that show, the studies that show that it decreases the amount of cortisol, which is one of the stress hormones in our body, compared to regular talk therapy, and compared to placebo by about 24%. Has changes in your brain that have been shown on functional MRI. So it is evidence-based. It's not completely out there. I first learned about it, as I mentioned, when I was teaching at a medical conference. So from a physician who used it at the VA. And what it does is you're using the same meridians from traditional Chinese medicine or acupuncture that you would traditionally put needles in. We're tapping on those points using acupressure. So there's no needles involved. There's no pain, very few side effects, if any, from it. And as you tap on these meridians, these spots on your arm, mostly face and chest, you send calming signals to the stress center of the brain that allow the brain to reprocess how it functions in the face of these stressful stimuli. So if you're really angry about something, you tap all about the anger, and that trains your brain to not get upset about whatever it is that you were upset about. And in tapping, which is interesting, we don't do platitudes and affirmations and positive things. We're actually tapping on the more negative, the more strongly charged your emotions are in terms of being negative, almost the better it works. So you'd be tapping on something about anxiety, and you're just saying over and over again, all this anxiety, I'm so anxious. As you tap on the points, that's how it works. So a lot of people are like, wait, what? I'm talking about my negative emotions now? I thought I was supposed to pretend that I don't have those. And it's a really healthy way to process. And I've actually loved tapping during COVID because I can do it with anybody. I can do it on Zoom. I don't really do it in person because I'm not seeing anyone, but I can do it with groups. You can benefit from it even if you're not the person directly tapping with me in a group. and it works right then and there. And it's amazing how quickly and effectively it works.
Is there one for like teacher burnout, like you were experiencing burnout earlier? Is there a specific one that a teacher can do?
Depending on what emotion you have. So you don't want to just say, I'm burnt out. You want to tap on what specifically are you feeling about your burnout? Maybe you feel undervalued, or you're frustrated, or you're angry, or you're anxious, or you're exhausted. There's all sorts of different components to burnout. And so what's important is that you really pinpoint the emotion behind your burnout in that moment, and then you tap on that emotion as specifically as possible. Burnout itself is a little bit broad unless you break it down, I think, into smaller components. But let's say you're a teacher and you just had one kid that insulted you, or a kid that just told you some story that was heartbreaking from their home situation, and you're just devastated and you need to like pick yourself up and go on with your day. You can tap on, even though I feel devastated about this child's home situation, I love and accept myself. You start the tapping here, and then you go through just, I'm so devastated, I'm so devastated, I'm so devastated, and it makes me so sad. And that will help calm you down in that moment. So burnout as a bigger thing requires probably a little bit more of a systematic approach, but emotional reactions in the moment, you can also do.
Explain a little further on why do we keep repeating the negative thing? Because, like, for instance, we're so used to saying positive affirmations to ourselves, to try to, be our own cheerleader, to boost our emotions of what we're feeling. And right. Like you said earlier, like you're supposed to just cover it or dismiss those negative emotions. So if we keep repeating, like the state, the feeling, how does that actually help us?
Because you have to be experiencing that negativity and the intensity of that negative emotion as you tap in order for it to send the calming signals to your brain. So let's say you're like 10 out of 10 really anxious about something, and you're like, I am calm, I feel wonderful. Your brain's just going to reject it. It's not going to listen to it. It's not going to accept it because it's not there. It's in crisis mode. It's 10 out of 10 anxiety. So once we get the level down to we always measure the level of how severe the emotion is. Once we get the level down to like a 2 or 1 or a 0, then you can go back through and tap in some positive, because you'll have some positive feelings and aha moments come up as you tap. Then you can tap in the positive when your brain is ready to receive it. But it's like when you're stressed, you have this wall around you and nothing gets in, and you'd just be wasting your time if you were talking about happy things.
What is an indicator that you would know that your brain is ready to receive something positive?
So when we tap, we always get a measure of how strong the emotion is from 0 to 10. And if you start at an 8, you want to measure how every time you do a few rounds of the tapping, you stop and pause and check in with yourself. Or if you're tapping one-on-one with somebody or with a guided meditation, you pause and check in to see how strong that is. Once it's gotten down to like a 3 or below, then you're probably ready to start infusing some positive into the tapping sequence that you're doing. The lower, the better. So that's how we do it. That's our objective. That's our test, is to see how well the tapping is working using that severity level to make sure that we're actually improving.
So when it comes down to judging your own level, and you might just be feeling a feeling, but don't know how to rate it, I guess I'm just feeling it, so I don't know, maybe an 8, and what if people are unsure of their own rating scale? Is it just based on, do I feel a little bit lighter? Do I feel a little bit more at ease?
Yes, all of the above. I mean, you feel like if it feels totally overwhelming and you're just raging and seething, that's the 10. Or if you're just off the wall anxious and you can't sleep and everything's, that's a 10. And then as you go through, you're like, okay, well, it doesn't feel as strong. Maybe it's a 6 now. Maybe it's a 7 now. But it's subjective. So if you miss it by a little bit, that's okay, as long as you're seeing that it's improving. But people, once you start getting used to really paying attention to the severity of it, people do get used to rating it. Or you could do like a little smiley face scale, like major frowny face, slightly frowny face, neutral face, little smile, big smile. And that would work too.
So Jill, as we wrap up our conversation today, what is one thing a teacher can do today in order to feel a little better?
Learn the basic tapping technique and allow yourself to feel your feelings, and don't try to cover them up, because if you cover them up, they're going to come back and bite you later. So use the box breath. I know you said one thing, but you can do the box breath and come to your senses. But also, if you learn the tapping technique and are comfortable with it, you can pull it out of your pocket anytime, any day, and do it and feel better in 5 minutes.
So Jill, how can our phenomenal teachers find out more about you and the gifts that you're offering?
It's JillWener.com, JILLWENER.com. And on social media, I'm at Jill Wener MD on Twitter and on Instagram. And I do offer 50% discounts on my live teaching course, my live meditation course for teachers. And I'll have an online version as well that's much less expensive even than the discounted live course. So there's lots of options for folks, especially during COVID, who can't make it one-on-one.
Well, thank you so much for being on the Phenomenal Teacher Show.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.